Welcome everybody who's just joined us. We're just letting everybody in now. There's quite a lot of you. We're in the waiting room, nice and prompt. So everyone's just joining. We'll give it a couple of minutes to get everybody in, and then we'll start this month One for All. Once again, welcome to everybody who's just joined us. We're just allowing everybody to get into the room. If I can ask that if you're not already muted, that you go on to mute and stay on mute during our speaker session. You will be able to ask questions in the chat, and depending on the interaction, you may be able to unmute and ask questions as well. We're just letting everybody into the session. We had 90 people booked for today's session, so there's quite a lot of people joining us today. Okay, so I make it 1 o'clock. We've got 43 people already in. I will continue to monitor the waiting room and let people in, but I'm going to kick off today's One for All. Starting, I think, actually with a little reminder about why we did this, because we started this off in lockdown 1 back in March, April last year. And the idea of doing this and getting together was that people have a place to drop in, to feel connected, to share and gain knowledge. And that's what today's is going to be about as well, an opportunity to learn, get some positive interaction. So we will have a breakout room. I know you all like the breakout rooms. Get some designated talk time, and sometimes a bit of a space for creativity as well. So that's what our monthly One for Alls are about, and we've got a really exciting series of these set up for 2021. So with that, I'm going to hand over now to Shana Matson. Shana is one of the Women's Utility Network advocates, and Shana is going to be your host for today. Over to you, Shana.
Thanks, Hayley. Just checking that I'm not on mute. I have a habit of doing that in these conferences. So yeah, thank you and welcome everyone. For those of you I haven't actually had the chance to formally meet or in person or kind of over any of these WUN for All events, as Hayley mentioned, I'm the Diversity Inclusion Manager for Cadent. I've worked in the energy industry for the past 10 years and more recently moved into this role. It's just coming up to just over 12 months actually. So it's the first role within Cadent that focuses on diversity and inclusion. So I'm really grateful actually that my experience within the sector has really helped me to shape what this role looks like, and working with some fabulous women that I know that are on this call as well, to make sure that we've got a sector and an industry that is creating future opportunities for the next generations, and to make sure that, you know, what we're doing sets our industry up for future success, because we know it's ever changing and our priorities are refocusing all the time. So really grateful to be here and working alongside all of you passionate women as well. Just a bit more about Cadent. I'm just going to plug us whilst I've got everybody here. We are the UK's largest gas distribution network within the energy sector, energy and utility sector. And we manage a network of more than 80,000 miles of pipes. And yes, I have written that down because it's not a figure I would remember off the top of my head. Most of them are underground, so you probably don't even know that they're there, but they transport gas to 11 million customers. So yeah, that's a bit about me and about Caden. And today's agenda, which you will all know because you've all signed up, is based on podcast. So I am really excited to share that WUN are launching our very own podcast, which is why we've got this session here today to talk to you about your experiences. We've obviously got our guest speaker, who'll be talking about her experiences as well. But we want to make sure that our podcasts are easily accessible to you. We know that we can't always all get together at lunchtime, and that podcast is a really great way for us to be able to learn on the go and access in our own time. And we know that with home working and lockdown, that's thrown all kinds of challenges at us. So we wanted to create something for you, our community, that are at the core of what we do here, that's kind of easily accessible, and that we're talking about themes that are important to you as well. So we've got some time today to talk more about the podcast themes, more about what you want to hear as our members, and then also an opportunity, which is probably a little bit like a book club, but actually a podcast club, to share what it is that your favorite podcast to be able to share with other people. Firstly, though, I'm going to hand you over to Narcisa. I'm really excited to hear from Narcisa. She has a wealth of experience in the energy industry, and I'm not going to steal too much of your thunder. But yeah, I'm going to hand over to you, Narcisa. She also coordinates your Aura's Energy Unplugged podcast as well. So yeah, really excited to hear from you, and I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, hello, and thanks for having me. My name is Narcisa Danila. I'm event content manager for Aurora Energy Research, and I'm very happy to be here today to share a bit of our podcasting experience. As part of my job, I'm also coordinating Aurora's podcast. So I will just share my screen with you as I prepared some slides. I hope you can see my screen. So just some words about me. I joined Aurora in February 2020, right before the pandemic started. I moved from Bucharest, Romania to Oxford in the UK. And I had big plans for Aurora's business events. And I'm referring to our in-person events. But of course, things changed since then. And as all of us, I also faced a lot of challenges. But yeah, we can discuss about it a bit later. So first, I will start by saying a few words about Aurora and what is the company doing. Aurora offers power market forecasts and market intelligence, covering key markets in Europe, but also Australia and recently US. We have 3 offices in Oxford, Berlin, and Sydney, over 160 experts, and more than 350 subscribers, and we had over 90 transactions in 2020. The podcast, which is called Energy Unplugged, is part of our activities which help us to stay connected with our partners and our potential partners. So they go hand in hand with our events, our webinars, our group meetings, and other activities. And yeah, just a few words about Energy Unplugged. So Energy Unplugged is a mix of in-depth conversations with key international industry leaders, policymakers, and academics, exploring the hottest topics across the energy market. The podcast is hosted by various experts from Aurora. So we invite high-profile guests on the show to share their unique perspectives on major energy issues. The topics are mainly focused on power market, but they are also related with the energy transition. We are producing weekly episodes with thousands of listeners, mainly energy sector people from Europe, but also from around the globe. In terms of geographical coverage, you can see on this slide which are our top 5 countries in this moment. So we have UK, Australia, Germany, US and Ireland, but we aim to increase our international and European coverage, and we are doing lots of efforts in this sense. And this is why we are inviting guests from all over the world, but we are also discussing topics of wider interest. And depending on the guest and on the topics, we also had other countries such as Spain, Poland, and India in top 5. Why a podcast, and when did all start? Actually, so the podcast is not new. It's not a new idea for us at Aurora. We are thinking about doing a podcast since 4 years ago, and we actually started in 2018 with creating podcasts for our events. And the main objective was to tease our events, our business events. And we were inviting some of our speakers or some of our partners to talk a bit about what is the event going to be and how it's going to look like. And we saw the potential then, and we continue to organize a series called Aurora on COVID-19 Implications, which happened last year between April and May. And we continued with Energy Unplugged, which was released in June 2020, as we decided to focus less on the COVID-19 implications. But unfortunately, we are still talking about it as it's still, a topic to discuss. Some of our main reasons for doing the podcast are, first of all, to stay connected with our partners. And we think a podcast is a great way to do this. Stay connected with our partners, but also our potential ones, and support them in sharing their expertise, or for our guests finding new information on a specific topic. Second reason is related to community building. And we believe that we can reach a wider audience and build brand loyalty, especially at a time when in-person meetings and events are being restricted. Third reason is to produce long-form content. And in a world of information overload, we are bombarded with short-form information and content, and I'm referring here mainly to social media. And we believe that the podcast is a good way to go deeper into our content. And last, we are doing this because it's fun, and a podcast in general is meant to entertain listeners. So we are having relaxed conversations with high-profile guests discussing serious topics, but everything is happening in a relaxed and fun format. In terms of challenges, I will mention, only 4 of them. So, of course, organizing a weekly podcast, it's a challenge, and it requires a lot of effort from planning to organizing. It's a long process and time-consuming. So everything is starting with finding ideas of guests and topics, inviting the guests, drafting questions, scheduling preparation calls, planning the recordings, to recording, editing, and launching an episode, and all the marketing activities around it. And also very important to mention in here is the fact that we are looking almost daily to our podcast stats, so to our numbers in terms of listeners, but also geographical coverage, as this helps us to improve everything we are doing. Another challenge is related to having high-profile guests, but it's more of a challenge ensuring a good gender balance in a male-dominated industry. And I will go more into detail in my next slide. Next, having a specialized audience can be also a challenge. So attracting a wider audience with a specialized podcast, it's not easy. As we are an energy podcast, our content, it's not dedicated to the general public. So this makes things a bit harder on attracting a wider audience. And another challenge is having hot topics all the time, but being able to react quickly when certain events are happening, it's a big challenge. And I will just give you an example in here to understand what I mean. So, for example, last year in December, the UK government released its energy white paper. And we recorded and released an episode with Dan Monzani from BASE just a few weeks after, so in the same week, because we thought that our listener would appreciate a quick reaction and a fresh discussion on this topic. And yeah, of course, this again requires a lot of effort on our side. Going back to gender balance, we had and we are continuing to do efforts in this sense to have inspiring and successful women on our podcast. And these are just some examples of amazing women that were our guests or some of our hosts from Aurora. So Tekla von Bülow and Anna Barias are some of our hosts. And as you can see, in terms of guests, we are also trying to have a good mix of nationalities. So we had some women from the UK, but also Poland, Australia, US, and Germany. It's not perfect, but yeah, we are doing our best. And we know that we can do even more. Also important to mention is that we are discussing in these conversations also topics related to women in leadership roles, barriers to enter the energy sector, but also how we can learn from good examples. And Australia is a good example in here. And I strongly recommend you to listen to the episode with Audrey Zibelman, for example, the former CEO of AIMO in Australia, or the episode with Nora Mead Brownwell, who is talking about women-owned businesses. In terms of achievements, I will just mention three of our main achievements. So first of all is that we are receiving great feedback from our listeners. We are getting recognition. So almost weekly, we are receiving requests from big energy companies to be on, which are interested to be on our podcast. And we are also increasing our audience. We attract thousands of listeners from around the globe, and the numbers are increasing. And I'm happy also to announce that soon we will celebrate reaching 50K of total listeners. What have we learned from all this experience? And here I will just mention 3 points. First of all, very important is not to underestimate our content and always consider what is that our audience would like to hear. So even if we are having the biggest CEOs as guests on our podcast, Energy Unplugged most successful episode was an internal one with guests from Aurora sharing their expertise on a very hot topic. And this was potential of hydrogen. And yeah, then we realized that we have a strong voice and we will continue organizing this kind of internal episodes. Another thing that we've learned is that the only thing that can dictate the correct length of our episodes is our content. So for example, if an episode contains 20 minutes of good content, then it means that 20 minutes is the perfect episode length. If it contains 20 minutes of good content, but it has 40 minutes, then definitely it's too long. And we also believe that there is a benefit to having some consistency, though, as loyal listeners expect episodes to be within a certain length range. And one other important thing that we've learned is to listen to other podcasts. And we think it's very important to keep an eye on what is happening in the podcast world. And this helps us also to keep our standards high. And for example, I started with listening to the biggest energy podcasts as the Energy Gang, but I'm also listening these days to Michelle Obama's podcast, which I really find very inspiring. Also, I thought it will be interesting to share with you some things related to the number of downloads and streams. And it seems that it's thought that an episode with around 9,000 downloads or streams over the first 30 days earns a place in the top 5 of podcasts. Around 3,400 downloads gets a place in top 10, and around 150 is about an average for a regular established podcast. Also, Apple says that people listen for an average of about 20 minutes for any podcast. We are trying to keep our episodes, by the way, around 30 minutes long. But yeah, as I said, it depends on the content that we want to share. And also, probably you already know about it, but I found out, and I didn't listen to it yet, but I will, that there is a podcast called Role Models in German, which interviews women in leadership positions. And it seems that it's really inspiring to listen to their experiences. And also there is an International Podcast Day on 30th of September. And yeah, if you want to start listening to other podcasts and you are not doing it yet, I encourage you to start with Energy Unplugged. And you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Yeah, this was all on my side. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful. I've got a couple of questions, but I'm going to hand it over to the audience first. So Rachel said she really enjoyed the podcast. This was Rachel Hayes, sorry. Really enjoyed the podcast. I wondered if you'd struggled to secure many female speakers.
So sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
So I wondered if you'd struggled to secure many female speakers.
Yeah, so as I said before, having women on our podcasts, it is a challenge because, yeah, especially in the energy world, we all know that this is a male-dominated industry. So yeah, it is a challenge for us in general, but every time we invited a woman to be our guest, we received a very good response. So yeah, they were interested to join our podcast. And also one thing that I didn't mention before is that these episodes, having women as guests or hosts, they are actually one of the most successful episodes we have with biggest numbers of listeners. And yeah, we are very happy that this is happening. And as I said, we are continuing our efforts to have as many women as possible.
It's clear it's a great way to engage women within our sector, within energy as well, isn't it? So I guess really great for any of our members and our partners that are on the call today. Yeah. So I've got one more question, and I think you've kind of covered this, but I didn't know if there was anything else that you did want to say. And this was from Maren, He said, I'd be curious to hear whether you have thoughts about the ideal length of a podcast. How do you find a balance between long enough for in-depth conversations and short enough to be listened to? So I know you mentioned kind of keeping it to 20, 30 minutes, but was there anything else you wanted to share on how you balance that?
Yeah, we had a lot of discussions related to this topic within our team. And we were also reading a lot of information and trying to find out what is the best length of a podcast. And as I said, Apple says that people are listening to around 20 minutes of a podcast in total. But then, as I said, we realized that our content is what matters in here. And of course, we are trying to have some consistency, as I said. So we are trying to keep the episodes within 30, 40 minutes, but sometimes we have also episodes of 50 minutes if we think that the discussion is relevant. And we don't, we are pretty flexible, I think.
Thank you. Okay, so just a question from me then. So you mentioned I think it was the top 5 countries that you said were most popular in listening to your podcast.
Yeah.
Do you have any information or data as to why that is? And do you think that tells us anything about the energy market?
Yeah, of course. I know why this is happening, and it's mainly related to the markets we are covering as a company and to our target markets. So in terms of marketing, we are promoting our podcast on social media, our website, but we are also sending a weekly email. And this weekly email is sent to our database of partners and potential partners, which are mainly from these countries. So that's why we have these countries in top 5. But as I said, we are trying to expand our coverage, and we are inviting guests and discussing topics of wider interest. And yeah, we are doing efforts but also as a company, we are doing efforts to expand our coverage in other markets.
Okay, thank you. And then we've got one final question from Rebecca. You've mentioned women in leadership roles. What do you do for those women who aren't in those positions and recognise the barriers in place, especially being in a male-dominated environment?
So I'm not sure, how to answer to this question. Is a good question. As I said, most of our women guests are in a leadership position, but we also have less senior women as our guests. So we are trying to encourage also less senior women to be able to have these conversations. So again, we are pretty flexible in here. I don't know if this answers your question.
Definitely think there's loads that we could expand on in that area, and lots that we're doing as part of this network and as part of our memberships and our partnerships as well. So I think we could probably talk for days about that one. So thank you so much. That was really insightful, really informative. Would love to get you on one of our future podcasts, and if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking forward to listen to your podcast.
Thank you. So we're going to do something a bit interactive now. I mentioned to you earlier that our members here that are on the call and our wider WUN members are at the core of our community. So we really want to hear from you about interesting topics that you want access to, that you want us to talk about, or that you want us to explore. So I'm going to hand over to Hayley, who's going to show us how to use the whiteboard.
Thanks, Shana. So for those of you who are familiar with Zoom, you'll know that there is an interactive whiteboard, so you can go in and add comments yourself. And we thought it would be a good way to capture thoughts and ideas that you had about what you'd like to see on WUN Podcast. So the network was set up for you. It's about you. So we're really interested to hear what you've got to say. if you're on your PC, you go into view options and annotate the minute I bring up the whiteboard on the screen. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Everyone will be able to see it. Just go in, go to the text box at the top. It'll create a text box on the whiteboard, and you can type in any subject that you are interested in. So here we go. Let's see if this works with everyone. Okay, there. So you should all now see a whiteboard. What podcast topics would you like to hear? So please feel free to type away. And I'm going to add something in here about experts. No.
I love that somebody's put mentoring and imposter syndrome down on there already. Really hot topics. I know next month we'll be doing a WUN For All event on mentoring as well. So it links in quite nicely. How to run a business, that's a biggie. I know we've got many women within our network that can help with that as well.
Managing work-life balance as well. That's so very topical at the moment. Don't worry if you've realized you've typed over somebody. I have the ability to move your comments. I don't have the ability to correct them. So if there's any people there like me who can't spell very well, I can't correct those, but I can move them. Typical career paths, that's a really interesting one.
Advice for sideways moves and also becoming a manager, really good, I think, for those kind of moves to get support from the network around you. I think it's really vital because there's no, this is how to be a manager. You kind of take bits from other people. So I'd love to see something on that.
So we've got some fantastic things on here. Are there any technical things? So I did see something around, I'm sure I saw a technical one a minute ago, more relating to the industry.
It's net zero, how do we get there? Yep. STEM, how can we kind of inspire that next generation? I think that says something along those lines. How to get the younger generation interested. Something that we're working quite hard on. I know within Caden and across the energy sector, it's something that we're really focused on. Energy white paper, like the one of there, not to take on masculine leadership traits. You often hear of women feeling that pressure to have to fit in. So again, another really interesting topic. Rachel's just highlighted a podcast, which is new, that they've recently launched. So more than welcome to highlight podcasts. That's what we're all here for. Happy to share the trials and tribulations of launching. That would be great. Thank you. Looks like we've got quite a lot in there, so it's going to keep us busy for the next couple of months, I think.
Absolutely. I'll try and sort of make sure we're not overlapping anything. Can everybody read what they've written and they're happy with what's on there? Because we will retain this as an image that we can work from as well.
I can see it quite clearly, Hayley.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. And what I would say is that, you know, this isn't set in concrete. I'm sure there'll be things that you want to see along the way. You know, we might do a WUN for All podcast or a WUN for All event that you want to know more about. So we're happy to kind of expand on there. But, you know, there's much interest from our members. You know, that's what makes our podcast. So, oh, we've got another recommendation from Rachel on the energy white paper. So perfect. Okay, I think we've got a lot there. As I said, if you've got suggestions that you haven't put down today and you think of anything, we'd love to hear more from you in the future. So thanks, Hayley. So we're going to move into a breakout now. Something I find really motivational is actually that trying to motivate others and learn from others, especially when it comes to, you know, learning, developing, reading different podcasts. So we want to do a bit of a January motivation for our members to share with each other their favourite podcasts and why. It doesn't have to be anything to do with women or with energy, but, you know, something that you really enjoy listening to and why, so that other people can share. So I'm looking forward to this because hopefully I'll come away with a lot of new podcasts to listen to. So I will, Hayley, you're going to put us into breakout rooms, aren't you?
Yes, so I'm going to create them now. They're going to be random. There'll be 5 or 6 of you in a room and we'll have approximately 10 minutes, but you will get a couple of minute warning before we close the room so you can wrap up your conversations nicely and not just get cut off. So it should pop up on your screen now. Welcome back, everybody.
Thanks, Hayley. Is everyone back now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So we know the theme of today's podcast. We're launching our very own WUN Podcast, which I'm really excited about. Our advocate Sabrina will be managing the podcast, and she's already got, loads of different events and themes lined up already. So really excited. Our first podcast will be with our very own founders, Angela Pert and Hayley, who's on the call today, Hayley Monks. And this will be about looking at an introduction into WUN, what WUN is about, what we're about, why was it founded and how. So our founders are going to provide an overview of WUN, what they can expect from us over the course of 2021, and in particular during themes of togetherness, connecting in light of the pandemic, and home working. So we are hoping to launch our first podcast by next Friday. So look out for LinkedIn for that. It will be on Spotify and iTunes. If that doesn't work for people and they can't access either of those platforms, please just do let us know, and we'll look at some other alternatives and where we can get this uploaded. But yeah, we'll share that with you. We're aiming to do 2 podcasts a month. So some of the content that came out on the whiteboard is going to be really helpful in keeping the momentum going and keeping our themes relevant to you. The first couple we've got are creating realistic goals, lessons learned from the energy transition, the future of work, and energy policy to shape our future. I think what came out of Narcisa's presentation earlier as well is it's a really good opportunity for you as our members or for our partners to be able to share any kind of high profile projects or impactful work that you want to share across this network, so that you can gain recognition for that, but also kind of spread that message. So again, if you want to be on one of our podcasts, please just do let us know. We're always looking for guest speakers. I think I've just seen a few comments come through on the chat. There was suggestions for everyone to continue to share their favourite recommendations for podcasts. Yeah, that's a great idea. I've got quite a lot. I think one of the things that came out from our group as well, some people just getting into podcasts, which is great. It doesn't work for everybody as well, so that's something that we need to be conscious of. And yeah, just please do continue sharing. And I think a few people have got to drop off by the looks of it, but I'm going to finish there and hand back over to Hayley, who's going to tell us what's coming up in 2021.
Thanks, Chana. That was a really great session. And I know a lot of you have got some brilliant ideas. So please do, as I said, post them in the chat, share them on social media, or drop a note to Helen at the WUN. And we'll make sure all those are fed in, whether they're just ideas, suggestions, you've got something you want to offer or to contribute, you want to get involved, please let us know. So what's coming in 2021? So starting off in February, next month's WUN for All is going to be our focus on mentoring. So tickets are available now on Ticket Tailor, so go and get that booked in to your calendar. It's Wednesday the 17th of February, always at 1 p.m, always a Wednesday. And look out for further events as we post them. We are just signing off our schedule for 2021, so lots of exciting stuff that's coming up over the course of the year. And it would be remiss of me not to also do a shout out here now for our partners. So you can see our partners listed here: Thames Water, Engage, Alexon, Cadent, Southeast Water, DDC, Utility Group, UK Power Networks, and EDF. Most of what we do would not be possible if it wasn't for our fantastic partners. And I know there are people from some of those organizations today, and we're very grateful for that partnership. They help us to help you. And if you do work for an organization that's not listed on here and you think, actually, I'd like my business to get involved, then talk to them and then maybe get them to talk to us. And the more partners we have, the more great things we can do. I'd also like to highlight that in 2021, we are working on our website as well. We know it's not brilliant. It's what we started with. And we've taken loads of feedback from you around the careers page, the mentoring, and our events as well. And so hopefully in February, we will be able to launch the new WUN website as well, which will be a lot more user friendly. With that, I'm going to just draw the today's session to a close. Just always a reminder to follow us on social media. It's where you'll hear what's happening in terms of events and activities, and it's the latest things that are going on. But other than that, thank you very much for coming along. It's been a really great session, and I look forward to seeing you in February.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.